I was 23 years old, standing at the entrance of my sister's wedding, when I first understood that humiliation could be arranged as carefully as flowers on a table. The venue looked like something pulled straight from a bridal magazine. White drapes flowed from the ceiling, fairy lights shimmered like captured stars, and the scent of roses floated in the warm afternoon air. Guests arrived in elegant dresses and tailored suits, laughter spilling freely as if joy were something everyone automatically deserved. I smoothed the fabric of my dress, simple, tasteful, something I'd bought with careful budgeting, and stepped forward with a small smile. No matter how complicated my relationship with my sister was, I told myself this day wasn't about me. It was about family. About showing up. At the check-in table, a young attendant scanned the list, frowned slightly, and scanned again. "Could you confirm your name, please?" I did. Her lips pressed together before she pointed toward a side corridor. "Your seat is outside." I laughed softly, assuming she was joking. "Outside?" She nodded, already reaching for the next guest. Confused, I followed the direction she'd indicated. The heavy glass doors closed behind me with a dull click, and the sound of music faded into something distant and hollow. Outside, there was no table. No white linen. Just a single metal folding chair placed on uneven ground. Beside it stood two large trash cans, their black lids half open, catching scraps of discarded programs and napkins. A faint sour smell hung in the air, subtle but unmistakable. For a moment, I simply stood there. I checked the seating chart taped to the wall near the door, my heart beating louder with every second. There it was, my name, printed neatly at the very bottom, far from the family tables. Far from the bride and groom. Assigned to a space that wasn't even part of the celebration. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. I lowered myself into the chair slowly, feeling the cold metal through my dress. From where I sat, I could hear the guests laughing, hear glasses clink, hear the soft instrumental music that played while everyone took their seats. But I couldn't see any of it. I was close enough to know I was excluded, yet far enough to be forgotten. My chest tightened, not with surprise, but recognition. This was familiar. I remembered birthdays where my gift was opened last, if at all. Family dinners where my chair was always the extra one pulled from the corner. Achievements quietly ignored because someone else needed the spotlight more. I had always been the flexible one. The understanding one. The sister who didn't complain. I stared at the trash cans beside me and felt something shift inside my chest, not breaking, but hardening. If this seat was meant to tell me who I was in my sister's world, then I was finally listening. And for the first time, I wondered what would happen if I didn't stay where I was placed. The ceremony began without me. I could hear it, the music swelling, chairs scraping as guests stood, a collective hush falling over the crowd. Somewhere beyond the closed glass doors, my sister was walking down the aisle, radiant and admired, exactly where she believed she belonged. Applause broke out, followed by soft murmurs of approval. I imagined her smile, practiced and perfect, the same one she'd worn since childhood whenever she knew she was winning. I sat outside, hands folded tightly in my lap, watching the breeze stir discarded napkins near my feet. Every cheer felt like a reminder that I was close enough to be counted, yet deliberately placed where I wouldn't be seen. When the music softened and the ceremony ended, the doors opened again. Guests poured out for cocktails, their laughter spilling into the open air. No one looked my way. No one noticed the sister seated beside the trash. Then she appeared. My sister stepped through the doors, glowing in white silk, her veil pinned perfectly in place. Cameras followed her, friends orbiting like planets drawn by gravity. As she turned, her eyes flicked toward me. She didn't hesitate. She smiled. It wasn't the warm smile she gave the guests or the grateful one she reserved for her new in-laws. This was smaller. Sharper. A curve of her lips that carried years of unspoken competition and quiet cruelty. She excused herself from her group and walked toward me, heels clicking against the stone. I stood automatically, a reflex I'd learned long ago: stand when she approaches, make space, don't take up too much room. Well, she said, glancing at the chair, then at the trash cans beside it. Her eyes sparkled with amusement. I see they found you a seat. I swallowed. Is there some mistake? She tilted her head, feigning innocence. Oh no. It's exactly right. Her gaze met mine, and for a moment, I searched for hesitation. Guilt. Something human. There was nothing. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. Guess you don't count. The words slipped out easily, like they'd been rehearsed. Something in my chest cracked, not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that made everything suddenly clear. This wasn't about space or oversight. This was about power. About reminding me, on her biggest day, where she believed I belonged. I thought of the late-night calls when she needed help. The money I'd lent without keeping track. The lies I'd covered for her because family protects family. All the times I had been useful, and invisible. She straightened, satisfied, already turning back toward her guests. Enjoy the fresh air, she added lightly, as if she'd just offered a kindness. As she walked away, laughter trailing behind her, I sat back down slowly. My hands were trembling now, but not with fear. With certainty. For years, I had mistaken silence for strength. I had believed endurance was loyalty. Sitting there, beside the trash cans, I finally understood the truth. This wasn't love. It was convenience. And for the first time, instead of shrinking under her smile, I felt something unfamiliar rise in me, calm, steady resolve. I looked down at the gift resting on my lap and realized something important. Some smiles don't just hurt. They end things. The gift sat in my lap like a quiet secret, its weight far heavier than its size suggested. Wrapped in ivory paper with a thin silver ribbon, it looked no different from the dozens of other presents stacked neatly inside the reception hall. Anyone passing by would have assumed it held something ordinary, jewelry, perhaps, or a sentimental keepsake. Something safe. Something expected. It wasn't. As laughter floated out through the open doors, my fingers traced the edge of the box, and memory after memory surfaced uninvited. 6 months earlier, my sister had shown up at my apartment long after midnight, mascara streaked, hands shaking. She hadn't knocked, she never did when she was desperate. I've messed up, she'd whispered, sinking onto my couch. If this gets out, the wedding is over. His family will pull everything. Please. I just need help. Just this once. I remembered the way my chest had tightened then too. Not with anger, but with responsibility. I had always been the one who fixed things quietly, who absorbed consequences so others didn't have to. I hadn't asked for explanations right away. I hadn't demanded gratitude. I'd just opened my laptop, made calls, and transferred money meant for my future into holes she'd dug without telling anyone. I never told our parents. I never told her fiancé. I protected her image because I thought that was what sisters did. Now, sitting outside her wedding, I finally understood what that protection had bought me. Nothing. A sudden burst of applause pulled me back to the present. Glasses clinked again. Someone toasted. Inside, my sister was being celebrated for her strength, her charm, her perfect life. I exhaled slowly and stood up. No one stopped me as I stepped toward the empty chair. No one noticed when I placed the gift carefully on the seat she'd assigned me. The irony wasn't lost on me, it was the only thing of mine she had chosen to keep close. Inside the box was an envelope. Inside the envelope were copies of every payment, every signed agreement, every legal document that tied her debts back to her name. There was also a letter, short and precise, written in calm handwriting. It stated that the financial protection I'd provided was conditional on basic respect. On being acknowledged as family, not treated as disposable. And that condition had just been broken. I didn't feel triumphant as I turned away. I felt light. Like I'd finally set down a weight I'd been carrying for years. As I walked past the glass doors, I caught my reflection, head held high, eyes steady. For the first time, I wasn't leaving because I'd been dismissed. I was leaving because I chose to. Behind me, the gift waited quietly, untouched, blending in with the rest. No one rushed to open it. No one suspected that among the flowers and laughter sat the truth my sister had worked so hard to bury. Some gifts aren't meant to be opened immediately. Some are meant to arrive exactly when they hurt the most. And as I stepped into the sunlight, keys in hand, I knew the moment was close. I was nearly at my car when the music cut off. Not gently. Not as part of the schedule. It stopped the way laughter does when a secret finally escapes, abrupt and unmistakable. For a brief moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then came the scream. It tore through the warm afternoon air, sharp and raw, nothing like the carefully controlled voice my sister used in front of others. Heads turned. Guests froze mid-step. Someone dropped a glass. I paused, keys resting loosely in my hand, and turned just enough to see the chaos unfold through the open doors. My sister stood near the head table, bouquet forgotten on the floor, her face drained of color as if all the blood had rushed away at once. The elegant white of her dress made the tremor in her hands impossible to miss. In one fist, she clutched the opened envelope. Papers lay scattered at her feet, fluttering like fallen petals. Her fiancé was reading. Not skimming. Reading. His jaw tightened with every page, his expression shifting from confusion to disbelief, then to something colder. His parents stood behind him, their smiles gone, eyes sharp and demanding. The wedding planner whispered urgently into a phone. A sponsor argued with a coordinator near the bar. The celebration unraveled in seconds. I didn't know, my sister cried, her voice cracking as she looked around wildly. I fixed it. It's handled, she handled it. Her eyes found me. For a heartbeat, everything went quiet again. The years of dismissal, the folding chair, the trash cans, the smirk, they all led to that single look of panic. She screamed my name. I didn't answer. I watched as her fiancé stepped back, holding the documents away from himself as if they burned. The truth was laid out clearly, debts quietly paid, contracts transferred, protections now withdrawn. And at the bottom, the letter. The part that explained why. Public humiliation. Disownment. Breach of trust. All witnessed. All undeniable. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Her parents tried to intervene, but even they looked stunned, as if seeing a version of their golden child they had refused to acknowledge. I turned away. The car door closed with a soft click that felt louder than the scream had. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I could still see the venue in my rearview mirror, guests standing in confused clusters, the bride in white collapsing into tears, the perfect day fractured beyond repair. I didn't feel joy. I felt justice. Sweet, quiet, and long overdue. The music never started again. Later that night, my phone buzzed with messages, missed calls, angry texts, desperate apologies. I didn't read them. I didn't need to. For the first time, I understood that revenge didn't have to be cruel to be powerful. It didn't require shouting or spectacle. Sometimes, it was simply telling the truth and refusing to protect someone who had never protected you. And somewhere behind me, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a wedding ended the moment it finally became honest.